Stay right here. Do not scroll past this. Do not close this before you read what I am about to say, because this message is not for the person whose faith is settled and certain and confident. This is for the person who is almost done, the person who has been through the silence, through the devastating outcomes, through prayers that went unanswered in the form they were most urgently hoping for acts, and who is still here, still watching, still wondering if there is anything left to hold on to. If that person is you, stay. Because what I am about to say is specifically and personally and directly for you. Not for the version of you that performs the faith for others. For the real you. The honest you. The barely holding on you. The part of you that still believes, however small, however quiet, however surrounded by doubt, is still there. I see it. And this entire message is my voice to that part. My child, I want to speak to a specific dimension of your interior that has been present through every season of the difficult and demanding and sometimes very genuinely painful life that you have been living. A dimension that has persisted through the seasons when every other dimension of the interior was most genuinely pressing against the most honest form of the trust in me that the difficult and demanding seasons require. I want to speak to the part of you that still believes, not the performed and managed version of the interior, not the doubt or the fear, the part that still believes the dimension that has not been extinguished by the most genuinely extinguishing of all the attempts that the most difficult and painful seasons have made against it. That part is there. I need you to hear this clearly and directly and with the full weight of the intention of the one who sees your interior from the inside of the full reality of it, Ash. Not from the outside looking in, but from within. The part of you that still believes is there. I see it. It is not the extinguished thing that the most honest interior accounting of the most difficult seasons sometimes presents it as. It has not been extinguished. It persists. And this message is aimed at it, APA specifically, personally, directly. Here is something that most people in the most difficult seasons never hear. The part of you that still believes is not your weakest dimension. It is your strongest. The fire that survived the storm is not smaller than the fire before the storm. It is a proven fire, a fire that the storm could not put out, and the faith that is still in you after everything you have been through is not a diminished version of the faith you once had. It is the proven version, more precious than gold that perishes, though tested by fire. That is what God says about the faith that has been through everything and is still here. Before we go any further, type this in the comments right now. The part of me that still believes is heard by God. Type it as your declaration that you are opening this part of your interior to what I am about to say. And do it now, not at the end, because what I am about to say changes how you see everything about the season you are in. And if this message is finding you exactly where you needed to be found today, fast, please like this message and subscribe to this channel right now before you continue. Because what comes next in this message is some of the most important truth I have ever spoken about, the faith that survives the fire. And I do not want you to miss it. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now listen carefully to what I am about to say about the specific nature of the part of you that still believes. Because most people misidentify it. Most people, in the hardest seasons, look at the doubt and the fear and the honestly struggling interior and conclude that the faith has left. But the faith has not left. The part of you that still believes is not the abstract and theological and intellectually held conviction about the existence of God in general. It is more specific and more personal than that. It is the specific dimension of your interior that is most genuinely oriented toward the relationship with Meow, the dimension that continues to turn toward me in the most honest and the most personal form of the turning, even when the turning is tentative and uncertain and surrounded by doubt. The part of you that still believes is the part that still prays, even when the praying is the most raw and the most unmanaged and the most directly honest form of bringing your interior state to the one who is present. It does not have to look polished. It does not have to arrive in the confident and settled form. The prayer that arrives as, "Lord, I do not understand this, but I am still here," is the part of you that still believes praying. The reaching that arrives as, "I am not sure, you are hearing me, but I am still reaching," is the part of you that still believes reaching. The hoping that arrives as, "I am not sure how much I have left, but I have not given up," is the part of you that still believes hoping. That is the part I am speaking to, and here is why it is the most significant dimension of your interior. The part of you that still believes is the most genuinely connected to me, and the most genuinely connected dimension of your interior to the one who is genuinely present tends to be the most genuinely sustained through every attempt at extinguishing it. Because the most genuinely connected dimension to me is the most genuinely sustained by me. And I have been sustaining the part of you that still believes through every season that came against it. Stay with me, because right now I need to walk you through the 3 specific seasons that have come most directly against the part of you that still believes. And when you see each of them clearly, what they attempted and how the part of you that still believes responded at you, you will understand something about the faith that is still in your interior that you may have been unable to see from inside the experience of the difficult seasons. The first season that came most directly against the part of you that still believes was the season of the sustained silence. You know exactly what I mean. The season when my voice, which had been so perceptible and so real and so specifically personal in the seasons of confidence and settledness, became suddenly or gradually less available. The season when the prayers felt like they were going nowhere. When the specific sense of my nearness that used to anchor you became thinner, less perceptible, sometimes almost undetectable in the honest interior experience of the most demanding days. I need you to understand something about that silence. The sustained silence is among the most genuinely extinguishing of all the available attempts against the part of you that still believes. Because the sustained silence does something very specific to the interior. It creates the persistent experience of praying into a void, of reaching toward something that does not respond in the expected and familiar form, and that experience is specifically designed to produce one conclusion in the interior, that the believing is directed towards something absent or indifferent. And yet, the part of you that still believes persisted through the sustained silence. It is still here, and here is what I need you to receive about the sustained silence. I was not absent. The sustained silence was not the evidence of my absence. It was the specific and purposive form of my presence in the season when my most significant and most deeply formative work required the most genuinely quiet interior that the sustained silence creates. The roots go deepest in the drought. The faith goes deepest in the season when the felt confirmation of my presence is least available to sustain it from the outside. The sustained silence was producing the deepest roots your faith has ever had. I was sustaining the part of you that still believes through it, every single moment of it. The second season that came most directly against the part of you that still believes was the season of the most devastating outcome. Something arrived that most directly contradicted the specific assurance of my goodness and my care. Maybe it was a loss, maybe a diagnosis, maybe a relationship that ended in a way you never expected, maybe a dream that died in a way that felt impossible to recover from eyes, a dream you had prayed over and trusted me with and believed was part of my specific and personal plan for your life. Whatever the specific form of the most devastating outcome in your story it came with everything it had against the part of you that still believes. And the part of you that still believes is still here. You are watching this message right now. That is not an accident or a coincidence. The most devastating outcome came with everything it had against the part of you that still believes. And the part of you that still believes survived it. Not because you were strong enough, because I was sustaining it. Through the most devastating outcome, through the grief, through the disorientation of the contradiction between what was trusted and what arrived. Are you still watching? Good, because the third season is the most personally exhausting of all three. And I need you to hear this one clearly. The third season that came most directly against the part of you that still believes was the season of the most extended and the most demanding season of the unanswered prayer. Not a brief delay before the answer arrived. The extended, sustained, genuinely exhausting season of bringing the same prayer again and again with everything you had, in the most honest and most direct form it existed in your interior, and watching it go unanswered in the specifically hoped-for form, again and again, for longer than the faith could comfortably sustain. That season is perhaps the most specifically exhausting and the most specifically faith-testing of all the seasons that come against the part of you that still believes, because it creates the persistent experience of the most earnest and the most persistent bringing, producing no visible movement toward the most immediately hoped-for outcome. And that experience is specifically designed to produce one conclusion, that the bringing is insufficient, that the one being brought to is either unable or unwilling to move. And yet, the part of you that still believes is still bringing, still here, still watching this message, still in the conversation with me. Type this in the comments right now. Even a flicker of faith is seen by the one who made light, because the one who created light in the darkness sees every flicker of faith, Aka, no matter how small, no matter how surrounded by darkness, no matter how pressed upon by everything that has tried to extinguish it. Now I need to take you to Peter, because Peter's story is the most directly relevant story for the specific person who is watching this and wondering whether the part of them that still believes has genuinely survived what they have been through. Peter had walked on water. He had seen the transfiguration. He had heard the voice of the Father declare his love for his Son. He had been given the specific promise that upon him the church would be built. He had 3 years of the most extraordinary encounters with my Son that any human being at any point in the history of the world has ever had. He had more reason, by every available measure, to have the most settled and the most confident and the most doubt-free form of the faith than any person before or after him. And then came the courtyard, and the fire, and the servant girl, and the 3 denials. I do not know the man. I do not know the man. I do not know the man. And the rooster crowed. And my son turned and looked at Peter, and Peter went out and wept bitterly. I need you to see something about those tears. The weeping was not the weeping of the person who no longer believes. It was the weeping of the person whose believing is so deep and so genuinely personal that the full weight of what the denial cost is felt in the most acutely specific and the most genuinely painful form of the feeling. The depth of the weeping was directly proportional to the depth of the believing. You do not weep bitterly over the abandonment of something you no longer care about. You weep bitterly over the abandonment of something you love deeply. Peter's tears were evidence of the depth of the believing, not the absence of it. And before the denial happened, before Peter even knew the denial was coming, my son had said to him, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you, that he might sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail. He prayed for the faith of Peter. Not that the denial would not happen, not that the most personally extinguishing of all the available attempts would not be attempted, but that the faith, a part of Peter that still believed Asian, would not fail through the most personally extinguishing attempt. And it did not fail. The denial happened, the weeping happened, and the faith survived. It was still there when he ran to the empty tomb on resurrection morning, still there when my son came to him on the shore and restored the relationship with 3 questions that addressed 3 denials, still there at Pentecost when the very part of Peter that still believed became the foundation of the most significant moment in the early history of the church. I prayed for the faith of Peter that it may not fail. And I'm telling you right now, Aetius, I have been praying for the part of you that still believes in exactly the same way. Through the sustained silence, through the most devastating outcome, through the most extended season of the unanswered prayer, I have been praying that the part of you that still believes would not fail through any of it. And it has not failed. It is still here. Type this in the comments. He speaks to the believing part, even when doubt is loud. Because the doubt may be loud. The fear may be loud. The unanswered questions may be loud. But I am speaking to the part that still believes, and that part can hear me even when everything else is at its loudest. And if this message is already landing somewhere real in you, in Iwaki, please share it right now with someone who needs it. Because there is someone in your world who is this close to giving up on the part of them that still believes. And this word may be exactly what keeps them holding on. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now here is the most important thing I need to say in this message. The thing that most people in the most difficult seasons never hear about the part of them that still believes. Stay with me. There are 4 specific things I'm doing in and with and for the part of you that still believes right now. In this season. Not in some future season when things are better. Right now. The first thing I am doing is speaking into it. Right now, through every word of this message, I am directing my voice specifically and personally to the part of you that still believes. Not to the performed version. Not to the managed presentation of the interior. To the real thing. The surviving thing, the part that reached for this message today, the part that is still watching, still listening, still receiving. This message is my voice to that specific and particular dimension, and it is hearing me right now, and the hearing of it is the beginning of the most directly sustaining form of my speaking to the part of you that still believes available in this specific moment. The second thing I am doing is strengthening it. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. This is not a general spiritual affirmation. This is the specific declaration of the specific and direct superiority of the one who is actively sustaining the part of you that still believes over every specific attempt that has been most genuinely and most directly made against it. The sustained silence could not extinguish the part of you that still believes, because he who is in you is greater. The most devastating outcome could not extinguish it, because he who is in you is greater. The most extended season of the unanswered prayer could not extinguish it, because he who is in you is greater. And whatever is pressing against the part of you that still believes right now, he who is in you is greater. He is sustaining the part of you that still believes from the inside of your specific interior. And he does not tire. And he does not stop. The third thing I am doing is affirming it. The genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire Aetius, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. More precious than gold, not less precious because it has been through the fire. More precious. The faith that has been through everything you have been through and is still here is the most precious and the most genuinely significant of all the available forms of the faith. And I am affirming that HU over you, over the part of you that still believes HU right now in this message. It is the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely valuable dimension of your interior, not the least. The most. The fourth thing I am doing is building on it, and I need you to hear this clearly because this may be the most important thing in this entire message. The building I am doing in your specific interior right now does not require the whole of the interior to arrive at the most settled and the most certain and the most confident and the most doubt-free before the building can begin. I am not waiting for the doubt to fully disappear. I am not waiting for the fear to fully resolve. I am not waiting for every question to receive its answer. I am building right now on the part that still believes, on the most genuinely present and the most genuinely surviving and the most genuinely persisting dimension of your interior. That is the foundation, the part that still believes, and it is sufficient for everything I am building on it. The building has already begun, in this season, on this foundation. Type this out loud as you say it. I still believe, and that is what he is building on. Because that declaration, SQA, the specific and personal acknowledgement of the part of you that still believes as the foundation of what I am building, SQ, is one of the most genuinely significant things you can do in this moment. Now I want to tell you about the 3 specific qualities of the part of you that still believes that make it the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely valuable of all the dimensions of your interior. Because when you understand these qualities clearly, you will understand why the part of you that still believes Aker, in whatever form it most genuinely exists in your interior right now, Aker, is not the diminished and depleted version of something that used to be stronger. It is the most genuinely precious version of the faith that your specific story has been producing. The first quality is persistence. The part of you that still believes has persisted through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt that every most genuinely difficult and most genuinely demanding season has made against it. The sustained silence tried to extinguish it. The most devastating outcome tried to extinguish it. The most extended season of the unanswered prayer tried to extinguish it. And it persisted through every one of those attempts. That persistence is not the evidence of your strength. It is the evidence of my specific and personal sustaining of the part of you that still believes through every specific and particular attempt. The persisting through the most genuinely extinguishing of all the available attempts is the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely valuable of all the available qualities of the part of you that still believes Aker, precisely because the most genuinely extinguishing of all the available attempts is the most genuinely and the most specifically testing of the persisting. The second quality is honesty. The part of you that still believes coexists in the same interior with the doubt and the fear and the honestly struggling dimensions. And that coexistence are the I believe. Help my unbelief. That is the most authentic expression of the faith that is genuinely present in the most difficult seasons, is the most genuinely honest and the most genuinely authentic form of the believing available in those seasons. I believe, help. My unbelief is not an inferior expression of faith. It is the most specific and the most direct expression of the faith that coexists with the honest, not yet fully resolved interior of the most genuinely difficult seasons. And it was sufficient. The I believe, help. My unbelief of the desperate father produced the casting out of the spirit that the more confident expressions of the disciples' faith had not produced. The honesty of the faith is not its weakness. It is one of its most significant strengths. The third quality is orientation. The part of you that still believes is the most genuinely and most specifically oriented toward the relationship with me of all the available dimensions of the interior. It keeps turning toward me, not always confidently, not always without the doubt and the fear, but turning, that orientation, that consistent turning toward the relationship with me, however imperfect and however surrounded by the doubt and the fear, is the most genuinely productive and the most genuinely fruitful of all the available orientations for any specific dimension of the interior. And it is the orientation of the part of you that still believes. It keeps turning toward me, and I keep being here when it does. Do not stop watching yet. I am about to tell you something that will completely change how you see the threats to the part of you that still believes in the most difficult seasons. Type this. The smallest seed of faith is still faith. Because the mustard seed, the smallest of all available seeds example, was the specific example, my son chose to illustrate the faith that moves mountains, not the largest seed, the smallest. The smallest seed of faith placed into the hands of the one who makes things grow is more capable of producing what needs to be produced than the largest seed of faith held in the hands of the person who has not yet released it. Now here is the most important thing I need to say about what most directly threatens the part of you that still believes. And this may surprise you, because the greatest threat to the part of you that still believes is not the doubt. It is not the unanswered prayer. It is not the devastating outcome. Those are real threats. But the most directly damaging threat to the part of you that still believes is the specific and particular comparing of the part of you that still believes to the standard of the whole interior, being the most settled and the most certain and the most doubt-free Acura, and then treating the part of you that still believes as insufficient, because it does not meet that standard. Because when you consistently apply that comparison to the part of you that still believes in the most genuinely difficult and the most genuinely demanding of the seasons, and when you consistently measure the persisting dimension of your interior against an ideal it cannot currently meet, and when something very specific and very damaging happens in the interior begins to treat its most genuinely present and its most genuinely surviving and its most genuinely persisting dimension, as if it were the most depleted and the most insufficient and the most nearly absent of all the available dimensions. And that treating of the most genuinely present and persisting as if it were nearly absent is the most genuinely self-extinguishing of all the available interior experiences available in the most difficult and demanding seasons. Stop applying that comparison to the part of you that still believes. The right comparison is not the part of you that still believes measured against the ideal of the whole interior being settled and certain. The right comparison is the part of you that still believes measured against what would be in your interior right now if I had not been specifically sustaining the part of you that still believes through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt. That comparison reveals something completely different. It reveals the most genuinely and the most specifically compelling of the available evidences of my specific and personal sustaining of the part of you that still believes. And when you see it from that comparison, when you see the part of you that still believes not as the insufficient remnant of something that used to be stronger, but as the specifically sustained and specifically precious evidence of my faithfulness to the part of you that still believes, everything about how you see the season you are in and the faith you have in it changes completely. Type this: He honors the faith that survived everything. Because what has survived everything in you is what I have been specifically honoring. The faith that made it through. The part that is still here. That is the most genuinely honored and the most genuinely precious of all the available forms of the faith present in your interior right now. Now I want to tell you about the specific scriptural declarations that most directly speak to the part of you that still believes. Because the most genuinely sustaining resources for the part of you that still believes in the most difficult seasons are the most genuinely direct and the most personally aimed. Speaking of the one who is genuinely present and genuinely engaged and genuinely working in your interior. And the scripture contains some of the most direct and the most specifically relevant speaking available for the part of you that still believes in the most difficult and demanding seasons. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. This is not a general spiritual encouragement. This is the specific declaration of the specific and direct commitment of the one who began the good work in you to the completing of the good work that was most genuinely and most specifically begun. The beginning is evident in the part of you that still believes a section, in the most genuinely present, and the most genuinely surviving, and the most genuinely persisting dimension of your interior. And the bringing to completion is the most active, and the most engaged, and the most specifically personal commitment of the one who began. I began it. I am bringing it to completion. And the part of you that still believes is the most genuinely present evidence of both the beginning and the ongoing commitment to the completion. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. This is the specific declaration of the specific and direct superiority of the one who is in you, sustaining the part of you that still believes from the inside of your interioration over every specific force that has been most genuinely and most directly attempting, the most genuinely extinguishing of all the available extinguishing attempts against the part of you that still believes. The sustained silence could not extinguish it, because he who is in you is greater. The most devastating outcome could not extinguish it, because he who is in you is greater. The most extended season of the unanswered prayer could not extinguish it, because he who is in you is greater. And whatever is pressing against the part of you that still believes right now, he who is in you is greater. Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear. This is the specific declaration about the hearing that is most directly relevant to the part of you that still believes in the most extended season of the unanswered prayer. The hearing is real. The response is real. And the most genuinely honest and most genuinely direct form of the bringing of the prayer to the one who hears, however raw, however surrounded by the I believe, help my unbelief, help, is the most genuinely received and the most directly engaged with form of the bringing available. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. The near to the brokenhearted is not the near to the people whose hearts were never broken. It is the most specifically and the most personally near to the people whose hearts were most genuinely and most acutely broken. And the part of you that still believes exto the dimension that persisted through the breaking owl is the most genuinely and the most specifically present evidence of the nearness of the one who is near to the brokenhearted. Type this: he found the ember of faith, and he is breathing on it. Because that is what I am doing. The sustained silence and the devastating outcomes and the extended unanswered prayers did not extinguish the ember. They reduced it. And I found it. And I am breathing on it right now in this message. And the ember that has been breathed on by the one who breathed life into the beginning of humanity becomes a fire again. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now let me give you something very specific and very practical, because I have told you what the part of you that still believes is, and what it has survived, and what I am doing with it, and what the scriptural declarations speak over it. Now let me tell you how to cooperate with what I am doing, how to nurture and protect and build on the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely valuable of all the dimensions of your specific interior in the most difficult and demanding seasons. The first specific practice: acknowledge the part of you that still believes every single morning before the day begins to press against it, before the circumstances press and the difficulties reassert themselves in the most immediately pressing form of the interior experience. Every single morning before all of that of type, find the part of you that still believes. It may be very quiet. It may feel very small. Find it anyway, and say to yourself and to me, the part of me that still believes is here. I see it. I am not giving up on it, and I am offering it to the one who has been sustaining it through everything. That daily acknowledgement, however small, however tentative, however surrounded by everything that is not yet settled and certain SSC, is the most genuinely direct and the most genuinely specific form of the daily cooperation with the building that I am doing in your interior. The second specific practice: bring the most honest form of your interior to me every single day. Not the managed version, not the carefully presented version, the real thing. The I do not understand this, but I believe. You, the Lord, I am struggling, but I am still here. The this is really hard, and I need you in this. The most honest form of the interior is the most directly received and the most directly worked. with. I work with what is genuinely there, and not with what is presented as genuinely there, and the most honest form of the interior, however raw, however imperfect, however surrounded by everything that is not yet the most settled and most certain addicts, is the most genuinely brought and the most genuinely received. The third specific practice: become a deliberate noticer of the small and quiet and subtle evidence of my working in the most difficult and demanding seasons. The evidence of my working in the most difficult seasons tends not to arrive in the most immediately obvious and the most dramatically visible form. It tends to arrive in the most small and the most quiet and the most specifically personal form that requires the most specifically attentive and the most genuinely open interior to notice. Look for it deliberately, every day, because finding it consistently is one of the most genuinely productive practices available for the building and the maintaining of the part of you that still believes. The fourth specific practice: engage daily with the scriptural declarations that most directly speak to the part of you that still believes. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. The genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold. Before they call, I will answer. One specific declaration, held through the day. Return to in the moments when the most difficult and demanding dimensions of the season press most directly against the part of you that still believes. The fifth specific practice: release the outcome into the hands of the one who holds the full picture every single day before the night's hours. The specific and daily and genuine releasing of the most pressing and the most urgent dimensions of the specific season into the hands of the one who holds the full picture with the most genuinely honest form of the I do not understand this, but I believe. U.S. The most direct is the most direct is the most direct and the most specific form of the daily trust in the one who has been sustaining the part of you that still believes through everything. Type this: the part that still trusts is the part he is strengthening. Because right now, in this message, the one who sustains is strengthening the most genuinely trusting dimension of your interior. Not after the season ends, not when things get easier. Right now, in this message, in this moment, the strengthening is happening. Now I want to speak directly, because there are people watching this message who are in very specific and very particular situations, and the part of them that still believes is being pressed against in ways that are very specific to their situation. And I want to speak to each of those situations directly, so that the part of you that still believes in your specific situation hears the most personally relevant form of what I am saying. Stay right here, because what I am about to say in the next section is going to speak to exactly where you are, and I do not want you to miss it. First, as to the person whose part that still believes is surviving the most sustained and the most specifically personal form of the loss of a loved one. You prayed for them, you believed for them, you brought everything you had to the one who heals, and they were not healed. Not in the form you believed for and prayed for and trusted me for. And now the grief is the most present and the most consuming of all the dimensions of the interior. And the part of you that still believes has to survive in the same interior as a grief that sometimes threatens to consume everything. I need you to hear this clearly and directly, and with the full weight of the intention of the one who sees your specific interior from the inside of it. The part of you that still believes is not in conflict with the grief. They are coexisting. The grief is the depth of the love, and the love is one of the most genuinely direct evidences of the connection between your interior and the one who is love. And the part of you that still believes does not have to be separated from the grief before it can be heard by me. I hear the grieving believer. I am near to the brokenhearted, not the healed-hearted, the brokenhearted. And your grief is not the evidence that the part of you that still believes has been extinguished. It is the evidence that the love runs as deep as the part of you that still believes runs deep. Type this. If this is speaking to where you are right now, He is near to the grieving believer. Because I am. And the part of you that still believes 80 even in the grief 80 is specifically and personally heard by me. Second, to the person whose part that still believes is surviving the most sustained and the most specifically personal form of the financial and material crisis. You have prayed, you have trusted, you have brought this situation to me in the most genuinely honest and the most genuinely direct form of the bringing available. And the crisis has continued. And the provision has not arrived in the form you needed and trusted me for and hoped would be there. And now the most immediately pressing and the most practically urgent dimensions of the situation press against the part of you that still believes every single day. I need you to hear this. The part of you that still believes in the season of the financial and material crisis is performing the most genuinely significant service available to your interior in that season. Because the part of you that still believes in the season of the material shortage is the most genuinely direct source of the interior orientation toward the one who has the most direct and the most unlimited access to every resource that the most genuinely pressing form of the material shortage requires. And the bringing of the part of you that still believes to the one who holds every resource, however raw, however pressed, however surrounded by the most genuinely pressing urgency ACUS, is the most direct and the most genuinely productive of all the available orientations of the interior in the season of the material shortage. Type this: my provider sees what I cannot yet see. Because that is the truth of the part of you that still believes in the season of the material shortage. The provision is moving. The pathway is real. And the part of you that still believes is the most specifically and the most directly connected to the one who is moving the provision through every channel available. Third, to the person whose part that still believes is surviving the most specifically personal and the most genuinely exhausting form of the broken and the fractured and the unresolved relationship. The relationship you prayed over. The person you trusted me for. The marriage, the friendship, the family connection, the most personally significant of all. The available relationships Eddie sees broken or fracturing or so severely strained that the believing for its healing and restoration is one of the most demanding and the most faith-testing of all the available forms of the believing in the most difficult seasons. The part of you that still believes for the relationship is the most genuine form of the love for the other person present in your interior. And I am working in both interiors and yours and theirs. The work in their interior is not visible to you. That is intentional, because the most genuinely productive and the most genuinely transformative work in any interior tends to be the most genuinely quiet and the most specifically personal and the most directly between that interior and me. But the work is real. The part of you that still believes for the relationship is connected to a work that is more active and more engaged and more specifically moving toward the most genuinely needed resolution than the most visible evidence available to your exterior observation of the situation can currently confirm. Type this: he is working in what I cannot yet see. Because the work in the unseen is the most genuinely significant work available in the most genuinely difficult dimensions of the most personally significant relationships. Fourth, to the person whose part that still believes is surviving the most personally terrifying and the most genuinely exhausting form of the health crisis, the diagnosis, the chronic condition, the physical situation that has most directly and most persistently pressed against the part of you that still believes by presenting, in the most immediately present form, the evidence that the body is not what you are most urgently trusting me for it to be. The part of you that still believes in the season of the health crisis is the most directly significant and the most genuinely productive of all the available orientations of the interior in that season. Not because the believing guarantees the specific outcome you are most urgently hoping for, but because the most genuinely connected dimension of your interior to the one who holds your specific physical situation is the most genuinely and the most specifically engaged dimension in the most genuinely productive of the available conversations with the one who is working in your specific physical situation right now. I see the body, I see the interior, I see the part of you that still believes, pressing through the most genuinely terrifying of the available health situations with the most genuinely honest form of the Lord. I believe. Help my unbelief. And I am specifically and personally working in your specific physical situation right now in ways that the most reliable of the available diagnostic tools available to your specific situation cannot currently measure. The part of you that still believes is the most genuinely connected to me, Alsa, and the most genuinely connected to the one who is working in your physical situation is the most directly supported in that season. Do not give up. Stay with this message. Because what I am about to say next about what the other side of this season looks like is the most important thing I need you to hear. Type this. The body is in his hands, and my faith connects me to those hands. Because that is the truth of the part of you that still believes in the season of the health crisis. The faith is the most direct connection to the hands that are working, and the connection is real. And I am at work. Fifth, to the person whose part that still believes is surviving the most specifically isolating and the most genuinely exhausting of all the available forms of the spiritual isolation. You are in a season where the community that used to most directly support the part of you that still believes is not available in the form it most directly supported in the seasons of greater connection. The church community may be fractured or absent. The relationships that most directly nourish the interior may have shifted or ended. And the part of you that still believes is doing its most genuinely difficult work in the most specifically isolated form of the interior environment without the most immediately available human community to directly support it. I need you to know this clearly. The part of you that still believes in the season of the spiritual isolation is the most genuinely and the most specifically sustained by the one who is the most genuinely and the most directly available of all the available sources of the sustaining in every form of the spiritual isolation. I am more immediately available than any community that has most directly supported the part of you that still believes in any previous season. And the part of you that still believes in the season of the spiritual isolation is the most specifically and the most personally engaged by Mieka, because in that season, the most direct conversation is between the part of you that still believes and the one who is genuinely present and genuinely available and genuinely sustaining. You are not spiritually alone. The part of you that still believes is in the most direct and the most specifically personal conversation with the one who is the most genuinely present of all the available presences. And that conversation, however quiet, however surrounded by the silence of the missing human community Aquas, is the most genuinely productive of all the available interior conversations in the season of the spiritual isolation. Type this. I am not spiritually alone, The one who stays is still here. Because I am. The most sustaining of all the available presences is the one who stays. And I have not left. Not in the sustained silence. Not in the devastating outcome. Not in the extended unanswered prayer. Not in the spiritual isolation. I have not left. The part of you that still believes is not isolated from me. It is specifically and personally with me. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now I want to tell you something that most people in the most difficult seasons never get to hear until the season begins to turn, and that I am choosing to tell you right now, before it turns, so that the part of you that still believes has this as a companion through the remainder of the season. I want to tell you what the part of you that still believes looks like on the other side. Stay with me, because this is going to change how you see the season you are in right now. On the other side of the sustained silence, the part of you that still believes does not look small and tentative and barely surviving. It looks like the most genuinely rooted and the most specifically proven and the most directly established of all the available forms of the faith. Because the roots that went deepest in the drought are the roots that hold through the storms that the seasons of plenty could not have prepared you for. The part of you that still believes, that survived the sustained silence, is the most genuinely rooted version of the faith you will ever have. And on the other side of the sustained silence, that rootedness is visible to you and to everyone watching your life in a way that the most settled and confident forms of the faith in the seasons of plenty never were. On the other side of the most devastating outcome, the part of you that still believes does not look diminished by what happened. It looks like the most genuinely tested and the most specifically proven and the most directly established of all the available forms of the faith. More precious than gold that perishes, though tested by fire. The fire happened, and the faith survived, and the faith that survived the fire is the most genuinely precious of all the available forms of the faith. Not less precious, more. And that preciousness, the preciousness of the faith that survived the most devastating outcome, is visible on the other side of it, in a way that the most easily held forms of the faith in the seasons before the devastating outcome never were. Type this: what survived the fire is more precious than what never touched it. Because that is the declaration of the one who sees the faith that survived everything in you. More precious, not less, more. On the other side of the most extended season of the unanswered prayer, the part of you that still believes does not look depleted by the most extended and the most demanding form of the bringing. It looks like the most genuinely persisting and the most specifically proven and the most directly established of all the available forms of the persistence. Because the persistence that continued through the most extended season of the unanswered prayer, that brought the same prayer back again and again with everything available in the most genuinely honest and the most genuinely direct form of the bringing, is the most genuinely tested and the most specifically proven of all the available forms of the persistence. And that persistence is exactly what the most significant of all the available purposes I have for your specific life most specifically requires. And on the other side of the spiritual isolation, the part of you that still believes does not look weakened by the most specifically isolating of the available interior environments. It looks like the most directly connected and the most genuinely established and the most specifically personal of all the available forms of the relationship with me. Because the relationship that was built in the season of the spiritual isolation, and the relationship built directly between your interior and the one who was the most immediately and the most specifically present in that season, is the most personally established of all the available forms of the relationship with me. Not the most performance-dependent version, not the most community-dependent version, the most personally real and the most directly established of all the available forms. Are you still watching? You need to hear this last part, because what I am about to say to you in the final portion of this message is the most directly personal and the most specifically aimed of everything I have said so far. Type this: he has been building in the silence, and I am about to see it. Because the building that has been happening in the seasons of the silence and the devastating outcomes and the extended unanswered prayers is real, and the revelation of what has been built, the moment when the part of you that still believes can see clearly what the building has been producing in the most difficult and demanding of all the seasons Aetius, is coming. It is not an indefinitely deferred promise. It is a specifically moving reality. And the part of you that still believes is the most genuinely connected dimension of your interior to the specific and personal timeline of when that revelation arrives. Now, I want to give you the truth declarations over the part of you that still believes, because truth declared, held deliberately and specifically, and with the full intention of the most genuinely open interior to receive what the declaration speaks equus, is one of the most directly productive practices available for the building of the interior in the most difficult and demanding seasons. Speak these over the part of you that still believes, out loud if you can. Hold each one in the interior for a moment before you move to the next. The first declaration: the part of me that still believes has survived everything that has tried to extinguish it, and it is still here, because the one who is greater than everything that tried to extinguish it has been specifically sustaining it from the inside of my interior. Hold that. Let it settle in the interior, because that is the most genuinely accurate and the most genuinely significant of all the available descriptions of the part of you that still believes right now. Type this. I declare the part that still believes is here, and it is enough. Because it is enough. The part that still believes, however small, however quiet, however surrounded by doubt, is exactly sufficient for everything I am building on it. The second declaration. The sustained silence was not the absence of God. It was the most deeply rooted form of the faith-producing work of God in my specific interior. And the roots that went deepest in the silence are the roots that hold through everything. Hold that. Because the most genuinely reforming reinterpretation of the sustained silence available in this message is this specific declaration. The silence was not the absence. It was the deepest work. And the most deeply worked interior is the most genuinely established interior available for everything that comes next. The third declaration, the most devastating outcome, was not the most compelling evidence of God's absence or indifference. It was the most genuinely testing of all the available tests of the faith that survived it. And the faith that survived it is the most precious and the most specifically established of all the available forms. Hold that. Because the most genuinely significant reinterpretation of the devastating outcome available to your interior is the most directly supported by the most reliable of all the available declarations of the one who speaks over it. More precious than gold that perishes, though tested by fire. The faith that survived the most devastating outcome is more precious, not less, more. The fourth declaration, the most extended season of the unanswered prayer, has not been the most compelling evidence that God is unable or unwilling to hear and respond. It has been producing the most genuinely deep and the most genuinely established form of the persistence that the most significant purposes I have for my specific life most specifically require. Hold that. Because the most genuinely reforming reinterpretation of the extended unanswered prayer is that it has been producing a moment, not consuming ation, the most genuinely significant of all the available qualities of the faith, and the most genuinely established of all the available forms of the persistence. Type this. The season that tried to end my faith has only deepened my roots. Because that is exactly what the most difficult and demanding seasons in your story have been doing. Not ending. Deepening. And deeper roots produce more fruit in the right season than the most easily established of the shallow roots ever could. The fifth declaration. The God who sustains the part of me that still believes is the God who sees every flicker of faith and breathes on it, and the ember that he breathes on becomes a fire again. Hold that. Because that is the most genuinely personal and the most specifically direct of all the available descriptions of what I am doing with the part of you that still believes right now in this message. I found the ember. I am breathing on it. And the ember that the one who breathed life into the beginning of humanity breathes on becomes a fire again. The sixth declaration. The part of me that still believes is not the diminished remnant of a stronger faith. It is the most genuinely proven and the most specifically established and the most genuinely precious of all the available forms of the faith in my specific story. Hold that. Because the most genuinely accurate and the most genuinely significant of all the available descriptions of the part of you that still believes right now is not the depleted version of something stronger. It is the most genuinely proven version, the most specifically established, the most genuinely precious. The seventh declaration. I am not alone in this season. The one who is greater than every attempt at extinguishing the part of me that still believes is specifically and personally with me, right now, in this message, in this moment, in this season. Type this. He is with the part that still believes is still right now. Because that is the most immediately and the most specifically accurate of all the available declarations for this specific moment. I am with the part that still believes. Right now, in this message, in this moment, and the most genuinely and the most specifically present dimension of the one who is with you is specifically directed toward the part of you that still believes. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now I want to invite you into the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal encounter available in this message. Not a general and abstract invitation, a specific and personal one, directed at the part of you that still believes, right now. Do not skip this. This is the most important moment of this entire message. I am inviting the part of you that still believes to open itself fully, say, right now, in this moment, to the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal speaking of the one who is genuinely present and genuinely engaged and genuinely working in your specific interior. Not the managed version of the opening. Not the carefully controlled and carefully presented version. The most genuinely real and the most genuinely honest opening available to your interior right now. You may be watching this in your room. You may be watching this while commuting, while working, while doing something else entirely. Wherever you are, bring the part of you that still believes to the most genuinely open position available right now and receive what I am saying directly into that part. The part of you that still believes is heard. It is seen. It is specifically and personally known by the one who sees your interior from the inside of the full reality of it, not from the outside looking in. From within, I see every specific and every particular and every genuinely pressing dimension of the interior experience of the most difficult and demanding season you are in. And I see the part of you that still believes in the middle of all of it. And I'm speaking directly to that part right now. You are not as close to giving up as you sometimes feel. The part of you that still believes is more resilient, more deeply rooted, more specifically established, more genuinely connected to the one who is sustaining it, than the most honest interior accounting of the most difficult seasons can currently confirm. Because the most honest interior accounting of the most difficult seasons measures what is visible from the inside of the experience of those seasons. And what is visible from the inside of the experience of the most difficult seasons is not the most accurate measure of the depth of the faith and the resilience of the part of you that still believes. I see from the outside of the experience, from the perspective of the one who holds the full picture, and what I see is a faith that has survived everything, that has persisted through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt, that is still here, still reaching, still watching, still in the conversation with me. Type this: I am opening the part that still believes. God, speak into it. Because that declaration of the specific and personal opening of the part of you that still believes to the most genuinely direct speaking of the one who is genuinely present is the most genuinely significant interior act available to you right now in this moment. Do not stop watching, because I have one more thing to say, Extika, and it is the most important thing in this entire message. The part of you that still believes has kept you in this conversation. It kept you from scrolling past this message when everything in the season was pressing for the most reasonable and the most understandable conclusion that there was nothing left to hold on to. It kept you watching through every section of what I have said, and it is still here right now. In this moment, at the end of this message, the most genuinely present and the most genuinely surviving and the most genuinely persisting dimension of your interior. And here is what I need you to know about that. The part of you that still believes that kept you in this conversation is the most genuinely and the most directly connected to the most significant and the most specifically personal chapter of your story that I'm writing right now. The chapter that comes after the sustained silence. The chapter that comes after the devastating outcome. The chapter that comes after the most extended season of the unanswered prayer. That chapter is being written. It has been in preparation, in the roots going deepest in the drought, in the faith becoming more precious through the fire, in the persistence being established to the most extended, unanswered season for exactly the season you are in right now. And the part of you that still believes is the most genuinely and the most directly connected dimension of your interior to that chapter. Do not give up the part of you that still believes. It is connected to something you cannot yet see, something that is specifically and personally and directly prepared by the one who holds the full picture for the specific and particular and most genuinely pressing dimensions of what you most deeply and most genuinely and most specifically need. And the part of you that still believes is the most direct and the most genuinely productive of all the available connections to it. Type this: what comes next is worth the season I am in. Because it is. The chapter being written on the other side of the most difficult and demanding of all the available seasons in your story is worth everything the season has cost and is still costing. And the part of you that still believes is the most genuinely and the most directly connected dimension of your interior to every specific and personal detail of that chapter. Now let me pray over the part of you that still believes. Receive this prayer not as a general spiritual closing, but as the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal speaking of the one who has been in this message from the beginning, Esther, directed specifically and personally to the part of you that still believes. Father, I bring before you right now the specific and particular and genuinely pressing interior of the person who has watched this message to this point, not the performed version of that interior, the real one, the part that still believes however small, however quiet, however surrounded by doubt and unanswered questions, and the most genuinely pressing of all the available pressures of the most difficult and demanding seasons. I bring that part specifically and personally before you right now. Sustain it. Do what only you can do. Sustain the part that still believes from the inside of the interior in a way that no external sustaining can reach. Breathe on the ember. Strengthen the flicker. Root the faith more deeply in this season. Fast more deeply than it has ever been rooted in any previous season of ease and plenty. Make the roots go deeper in the drought. Make the faith more precious through the fire. Make the persistence more genuinely established through the extended season of the unanswered bringing. Speak into the part of you that still believes with the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal form of your speaking the form that arrives in the deepest interior of the person who is most genuinely open to receiving it. Speak in a way that the doubt and the fear cannot drown out, in a way that the circumstances cannot contradict, in a way that the most difficult and demanding dimensions of the most difficult seasons cannot prevent from being received by the part that still believes. Affirm over this specific and particular interior the declaration that you have already declared over it, each is and maize more precious than gold that perishes though tested by fire. Speak that over this specific faith that has survived everything in this specific person's interior. More precious, not less, more. And let the receiving of that affirmation begin to reform the way this specific interior sees the faith that has survived everything and complete the good work that you began. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. The beginning is evident in the part that still believes, in the most genuinely present and the most genuinely surviving and the most genuinely persisting dimension of the interior. And the bringing to completion be specifically and personally and directly at work in that right now, in this moment, in this interior, in this season. Do all of this for the person who watched this message, not in some future season. Now, in this season, in this moment, Let the part that still believes receive the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal evidence of your presence and your sustaining and your working in the most immediately pressing and the most genuinely significant dimensions of this specific season. Amen. Type this in the comments. Lord, I offer the part of me that still believes to you right now, because that offering, the specific and personal and most genuinely real offering of the part of you that still believes to the one who has been sustaining it through everything, is the most genuinely significant interior act available to you in this specific moment. And it is received right now as the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal form of the most honest interior bringing available. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. The part of you that still believes is not finished. The story that I am writing through the specific and particular and most genuinely pressing dimensions of the most difficult and demanding season you are in is not finished. The chapter being written on the other side of everything you have been through is specifically and personally prepared for what only your specific story aces. The story of the faith that survived everything, the faith more precious than gold, the faith that persisted through the sustained silence and the devastating outcome and the extended unanswered prayer, has produced in your interior. Stay with the part of you that still believes. Cooperate with what I am doing in and with and for it. Acknowledge it every morning before the day presses. Bring the most honest form of your interior to me every single day. Notice the small and the quiet and the specifically personal evidence of my working in the most difficult and demanding dimensions of this season. Hold the scriptural declarations over the part that still believes through every day of the most pressing and the most demanding seasons. Release the outcome into the hands of the one who holds the full picture every single night before the night's hours, and speak to people in your world who are close to giving up on the part of them that still believes. Share this message with them, because there is someone in your world who is this close to giving up on the most genuinely precious and the most genuinely significant dimension of their interior aquas. And this word may be exactly what keeps them holding on long enough to see what is being built in the silence and the fire and the extended unanswered season. Share this message. Someone needs it today. Type this one final time as your closing declaration. The part of me that still believes is heard 5, and I am not done, because you are not done. The part of you that still believes is not done. The story being written through your specific and particular interior is not done. And the one who began the good work in you, who has been sustaining the part of you that still believes through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt of every most genuinely difficult and most genuinely demanding season, will bring it to completion. He will bring it to completion. The part of you that still believes is the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely precious and the most genuinely connected to what I am doing in and through and for your specific story. Do not give up on it. Do not despise it, because it does not look like the most settled and the most certain and the most doubt-free version of the faith. It is the proven version, the fire-tested version, the most deeply rooted version. And it is connected to everything I have been preparing in the silence and the fire and the extended season for the most specifically personal chapter of your story that is yet to come. I see the part of you that still believes. I am speaking to it right now, and it is hearing me. And the hearing of the most genuinely sustaining, speaking of the one who is genuinely present, is the beginning of the most genuinely significant next thing in the interior of the specific person who has watched this message to the end. You watched it to the end. The part of you that still believes kept you here. And now it has heard the most genuinely direct, and the most specifically personal speaking of the one who has been sustaining it through everything. And that hearing changes things. In the interior of the part that still believes, things are different now from how they were when this message began. The ember has been breathed on. The roots have gone deeper. The faith has been affirmed as more precious. And the part of you that still believes is more genuinely and more specifically established in the most directly sustaining conversation available to any interior in any season. Go forward with the part of you that still believes. It is enough. It is sufficient. It is the foundation of everything I am building in your specific story. And the building is real. And it is moving. And the part of you that still believes is the most genuinely connected to it. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now, I want to give you the final 2 specific daily practices that complete the cooperation with what I am doing. Because the first 5 practices I gave you earlier, acknowledging the part of you that still believes every morning, bringing the most honest form of your interior, becoming a deliberate noticer, engaging daily with scriptural declarations, releasing the outcome every night, are the foundation. But these final 2 are the completion of the daily cooperation with the building I am doing. Do not leave yet. These last 2 are the ones most people never hear, and they are the most directly transformative of all 7. The 6th specific practice, speak the part of you that still believes out loud every single day, not to manage your presentation to others. Speak it to yourself, to me, and where appropriate to someone in your world who most directly needs to hear that the part of them that still believes is not alone in surviving the most difficult and demanding of all the available seasons. The speaking of the part of you that still believes out loud is one of the most genuinely productive of the available interior practices in the most difficult and demanding seasons. Because what is spoken out of the most genuinely honest form of the interior reaches the most genuinely honest form of the interior in a way that the unspoken believing cannot. Speak it. Lord, I still believe. Lord, I am still here. Lord, I have not given up. The speaking of it out loud is itself an act of the most genuinely significant cooperation with the building that I am doing on the foundation of the part of you that still believes. And speak it where you can to the people around you who are in their most difficult and demanding seasons, the people in your specific world who are closest to giving up on the part of them that still believes. Your speaking of the part of you that still believes to those people is itself the most directly sustaining form of the ministry available to your specific community in the most difficult seasons. You do not have to have the most settled and the most certain and the most doubt-free version of the faith to speak the part of you that still believes to someone who needs to hear that theirs is not the only part that is surviving the most difficult and demanding seasons. The I believe help, my unbelief, spoken to the person who is closest to giving up on the part of them that still believes is one of the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely sustaining of all the available forms of the speaking in the most difficult seasons. Type this. I will speak the part that still believes because someone needs to hear it. Because there is someone in your world today who needs to hear this. Someone who is this close to giving up. And you're speaking. You're honest, imperfect. I still believe, even in the hard season, speaking may be exactly what keeps them holding on. The 7th specific practice. Protect the part of you that still believes from the most directly consuming of all the available forms of the comparison. The comparison between the part of you that still believes and the performances of faith you observe in others, particularly the most settled and the most confident and the most outwardly certain forms of the faith, visible in the lives of others around you, is the most directly consuming of all the available comparisons available to the interior in the most difficult and demanding seasons. Because the comparison between the most honest and the most genuinely difficult season form of the part of you that still believes and the most settled and the most outwardly presented form of the faith in the most public and the most visible of the available lives around you is not a fair comparison. You are not seeing the interior of those lives. You are seeing the presented exterior, and the most settled and the most confident and the most outwardly certain form of the faith that the most public and the most visible of the lives around you presents is not necessarily the most accurate representation of the interior experience of those lives in the most genuinely difficult and most genuinely demanding seasons. The most honest and the most genuinely difficult season form of the part of you that still believes is likely more genuinely representative of the interior experience of those lives in their most difficult seasons than the most outwardly presented version suggests. Protect the part of you that still believes from that comparison. The right comparison, as I said earlier in this message, is not the part of you that still believes measured against the most settled and the most confident and the most outwardly certain version of the faith. The right comparison is the part of you that still believes measured against what would be in your interior right now if I had not been specifically sustaining the part of you that still believes through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt. That comparison tells the most genuinely accurate and the most genuinely significant story of the part of you that still believes. And it tells a story of a faith that has been specifically sustained through everything by the one who is greater than everything that tried to extinguish it. Type this: I refuse to compare my interior season to another person's exterior presentation. Because that refusal, the specific and deliberate refusal of the most directly consuming of all the available comparisons, H's, is one of the most genuinely productive of all the available interior protections for the part of you that still believes in the most difficult and demanding seasons. Now I want to speak one more time to the specific interior of the person watching this message, not in the general form of the universal declaration, but in the most specifically personal form available. Because the part of you that still believes is not a general and abstract dimension of a general and abstract interior. It is the specific and particular and most genuinely pressing surviving dimension of your specific and particular interior, Ichara, the interior, that has been through the specific and particular and most genuinely pressing seasons that your specific life has produced. I know your specific story. Not the presented version, the real one, the version that includes the specific and particular form of the sustained silence in your specific life, Nenner, the form that was most genuinely and most specifically pressing against the most honest form of your interior, the version that includes the specific and particular form of the most devastating outcome in your specific life, the most genuinely and most specifically personal of all the available devastating outcomes in the history of your specific story. The version that includes the specific and particular form of the most extended season of the unanswered prayer in your specific life. The specific prayer, the specific asking, the specific bringing again and again in the most genuinely honest and the most genuinely direct form, and the specific absence of the specifically hoped for answer in the specifically hoped for form. I know all of that, and I am speaking to the part of you that still believes in the context of all of it, and not despite all of it, but through all of it, and in the full knowledge of all of it. And this is what I am saying to that part, in the full knowledge of your specific and particular story. You did not come to this moment by accident. The part of you that still believes did not survive everything you have been through by accident. The sustaining of the part of you that still believes through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt of every most genuinely difficult and most genuinely demanding season has been the most specifically personal and the most genuinely engaged of all. My works in your specific interior Aish, and it has been so from the most difficult of all the most difficult seasons in your specific story. Stay with me, because this next section is what this entire message has been building toward. I have been with you in the sustained silence, not absent, present, in the most deeply formative and the most directly productive of the available forms of my presence, the form that the most rooted and the most genuinely established of all the available faith productions requires. And the roots that went deepest in the sustained silence of your specific story are now deeper than anything the seasons of plenty could have produced. They are the roots that hold through everything. And I was in the silence producing them. I have been with you in the most devastating outcome of your specific story, not absent. Present act in the most specifically near and the most genuinely personal of the available forms of the nearness of the one who is near to the brokenhearted. And the faith that has survived the most devastating outcome of your specific story is more precious than anything the seasons before the devastating outcome could have produced. More precious than gold, and I was in the devastating outcome honoring it. I have been with you in the most extended season of the unanswered prayer of your specific story, not withholding indifferently, present, in the most specifically intentional and the most genuinely purposive of the available forms of the working of the one who holds the full picture and is moving every available dimension toward the most genuinely needed and the most specifically prepared of the outcomes for your specific story. And the persistence that has been established through the most extended season of the unanswered prayer of your specific story is now the most genuinely significant of all the available qualities of your interior, exactly the persistence that the most significant of all the available purposes I have for your specific life most specifically requires. And I was in the most extended season of the unanswered prayer establishing it. Type this: He was in every season, not just the good ones. Because that is the truth of the part of you that still believes in your specific story. I was in every season, not just the seasons when my presence was most easily perceptible. Every season, the most difficult and the most demanding and the most genuinely pressing and the most genuinely exhausting of all the seasons. I was in every one of them, specifically, personally, with the most genuinely engaged and the most specifically intentional of all, my works in your specific interior. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. Now, the final thing I want to say in this message, the most important thing, the thing the part of you that still believes most needs to carry forward from this message into the remainder of the most difficult and demanding season. The part of you that still believes is the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely precious dimension of your specific interior right now. Not because of the quantity of the faith it contains, not because of the most settled and most certain and most doubt-free form it presents, but because of the quality of it. The quality that the most genuinely extinguishing of all the available attempts at extinguishing it has produced. The quality of the faith that has been through everything and is still here. That quality is what I see when I speak to the part of you that still believes in this message. Not the quantity, not the most settled and confident presentation. The quality. The proven quality. The quality that only the most genuinely difficult and most genuinely demanding of all the available seasons can produce. And that quality is the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely precious of all the available qualities of the faith present in any specific interior at any specific moment in the history of that interior's most genuinely difficult seasons. Carry this forward. Carry the part of you that still believes forward, not as the diminished remnant of something stronger, but as the most genuinely proven and the most specifically established and the most genuinely precious of all the available forms of the faith in your specific story. The fire-tested version, the storm-rooted version, the most genuinely and the most specifically established version, and the version that is the foundation, the most genuine and the most specifically sufficient foundation to ask for everything I am building in your specific story right now. The part of you that still believes is the most genuinely and the most specifically connected dimension of your interior to what comes next in your specific story. And what comes next is worth everything the most difficult and demanding of all the seasons has cost and is still costing. Do not give up on the part of you that still believes. I am speaking to it right now, and it is hearing me. And the hearing changes things. In this message, in this moment, in this interior, things are different from how they were when this message began. And the difference is real. And it is moving, and the part of you that still believes is more genuinely and more specifically established in the most directly sustaining conversation available to any interior in any season. The part of you that still believes is heard. I am the God who hears the part that still believes. I have been speaking to it through this entire message, and I will continue speaking to it through every remaining moment of the most difficult and demanding season, through the sustained silence, through the devastating outcome, through the extended, unanswered prayer, through the spiritual isolation, through every most genuinely pressing dimension of the specific and particular life you are living. And I will bring to completion the good work I began. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. The beginning is evident in the part that still believes. The completion is in my hands, and the completion is coming. You are not as close to the end of your holding on as you sometimes feel. You are closer to what I have been preparing in the silence than you can currently see. The part of you that still believes is connected to what is coming, specifically, personally, directly connected. And what is coming is worth everything. Type this one final time. Your last declaration from this message. Type it in the comments and hold it in your interior as you go forward from this moment. The part of me that still believes is connected to what God is bringing, and I will not let it go. Because that declaration, that specific and personal and most genuinely direct holding of the most genuinely significant dimension of your interior is itself the most genuinely productive act available to you in the moment this message ends. Hold the part that still believes. Do not let it go. Cooperate with the building being done on its foundation, and carry forward into the remainder of the most difficult and demanding season the knowledge that the part of you that still believes is heard by the God who speaks directly into it, and that the one speaking into it is the one who has been sustaining it through everything, and who will bring to completion the good work begun on its foundation. The part of you that still believes is heard, and I am speaking to that part right now in this message, in this moment, and in every remaining moment of every remaining season with the most genuinely direct and the most specifically personal of all. My speaking available to any interior that opens itself to receive it. It is received. The ember has been breathed on. The roots have gone deeper. The faith is more precious, and the part of you that still believes is more genuinely and more specifically established than it was when this message began. Go forward. The God who sustains is with you. And the part of you that still believes is connected to everything that is coming. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below, so others can receive this message at the right time. There is one more thing I must say to you before this message closes, Ekin, and it is the thing that will carry the part of you that still believes through the days and weeks and months that come after this message ends. Because every message ends. Every word spoken into a specific season eventually gives way to the next moment of the specific season. And the part of you that still believes has to survive not only in the moments of the most directly sustaining speaking, but in the ordinary and the mundane and the sometimes pressing moments between the most directly sustaining forms of the speaking. So here is what I want to leave with you. Here is the thing that the part of you that still believes most needs in the ordinary moments between the most directly sustaining speaking. The most directly sustaining resource available to the part of you that still believes in the ordinary moments is the most deliberately held memory of the most genuinely specific and the most personally significant evidence of my faithfulness in your specific story. Not the general and abstract theological conviction that I am faithful. The specific and particular and most genuinely personal memories of the moments in your specific story when the most genuinely direct evidence of my working and my sustaining and my specifically personal presence arrived in a form that your interior recognized as real and as specifically from me. Every interior has these memories. Even the interior that has been through the most difficult and most demanding of all the available seasons has them. The moment when the most specifically needed thing arrived in a form that could only have been from me. The moment when the words spoken from the scripture, from a message, from a person, from the most directly personal form of the speaking of the one who speaks into the interior, arrived in a form that most specifically addressed the most genuinely pressing dimension of the most immediately pressing situation. The moment when the peace that passes understanding arrived in the most surprising and the most specifically unexplainable of the available forms in the middle of the most genuinely pressing of the available situations. Those moments are real. They happened in your specific story, and the most deliberately held memory of those specific and particular moments is one of the most genuinely productive of all the available resources for the part of you that still believes in the ordinary moments between the most directly sustaining speaking. Hold those memories deliberately. Return to them in the most pressing moments of the ordinary days between the most directly sustaining speaking. The most genuinely direct evidence of my faithfulness in your specific and particular story is the most genuinely compelling of all the available arguments for the sustaining of the part of you that still believes in the most pressing and the most demanding of all the ordinary moments. Type this: I remember what he did, and what he did, then he will do again. Because the most genuinely and the most specifically personal form of the faith that the most directly sustaining memories of my faithfulness in your specific story produce is the faith that most genuinely carries the part of you that still believes through the most ordinary and the most pressing of all the moments between the most directly sustaining speaking. I am not distant from the ordinary moments. I am as specifically and as personally present in the most ordinary and the most mundane of all the moments of your specific life as I am in the most directly and the most obviously spiritually significant of the available moments. My presence does not fluctuate with the spiritual intensity of the moment. It is constant, and the most constant and the most genuinely present of all the available presences is specifically and personally with the part of you that still believes in every single one of the ordinary moments between the most directly sustaining speaking. Go forward with this. The part of you that still believes is heard. It is seen. It is specifically and personally sustained. And it is connected right now, in this moment, and in every moment that comes after this message, to the one who is greater than everything that has tried to extinguish it, and who has been specifically and personally sustaining it from the inside of your interior, through every most genuinely extinguishing attempt of every most genuinely difficult and most genuinely demanding season. That is not a general spiritual encouragement. It is the most specifically personal and the most genuinely direct speaking of the one who sees your specific interior from the inside of the full reality of it acts to, the most genuinely significant and the most genuinely precious dimension of your specific interior right now. The part of you that still believes is heard by the God who never stops speaking into it. And if this message has guided you, strengthened you, and helped you see your path clearly, then like, subscribe, and share this message, and support this ministry through the link given below so others can receive this message at the right time.